All right. Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for an emergency live stream. One that I think probably figured was going to happen a while ago, but as a few, I forget which Knicks beat reporter said in a tweet earlier today. Um, Tibbs was asked about this in summer league and seemed totally fine with the fact that the Knicks had to take care of some other business first and that he had to go to the back of the line, which he was fine with. But it happened today. Tom Thibodeau receives a 3-year contract extension on top of the year that he already has left on his deal. So that'll take him through, per Woj, the 2027-28 season. There hasn't been any reporting on whether there's a team option on the last season or not, but he's under guaranteed money for at least the next 3 years, and as of the current reporting, the next 4 years as well, which is kind of an eternity when it comes to this franchise, at least when you consider the fact that he already has 4 years under his belt. Over the course of those 5 years, Tom Thibodeau has, or excuse me, 5 years. Jesus, I'm losing track of time. 4 years or no? He's five. It's 4 years. It's 4 years. I'm not forgetting anything. Yeah, playoffs first year, missed it the second year, and then made the playoffs the last two. Over the course of that time, Tibbs has amassed 175 wins in the regular season for the Knicks, which maybe doesn't sound like a ton. And then you go look at the leaderboard for the franchise, all-time franchise record, and keep in mind it was a shortened season in there where they only played 72 games. 175 wins, ranks 5th all time. With this extension, coaches get fired all the time. Monty Williams got fired a year into a monumental 5-year deal. So, like, the fact that he signed this doesn't mean he's going to be here for the entire length of it. Doesn't mean he's going to be here for half of it. But he will have a chance at the very least to surpass Pat Riley. I mean, I would say if the next season goes according to plan, he'll surpass Riley next year. And certainly have a chance to surpass Jeff Van Gundy, 248 career wins again for the Knicks. Maybe we'll have a chance to catch up to Joe Lapchick, one of the earliest coaches in the history of the franchise. 326 wins, and then Holzman, at the top with the 613. That number, of course, hangs in the rafters. Tibbs has got a ways to go before he reaches the status of Holzman, or frankly, even Riley or Van Gundy. He's not there yet. But I think if you're looking to make, at this point, Mount Rushmore of Knicks head coaches, and we're talking about a franchise that has 77 years under its belt, I think he has to be on it alongside Holzman, Van Gundy, and Riley. And I think the reason why is the same reason why this contract extension was never in doubt. And this is where I'm going to divert very briefly to tell so this Woj tweet hit. I'm in Los Angeles right now. I was in the Academy Museum for the Museum for the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences. And I was literally stepping foot into the Godfather exhibit. And the tweet hits, and I look up, and I see there's all the costumes from the first 2 Godfather films, and then I walk around the corner, and there's Vito Corleone's desk and chair from the original Godfather film. The prop horse head is there. A couple other cool, nifty things, and I thought that was appropriate. And I thought it was appropriate because, for as much as Leon Rose often gets the tag of being the guy pulling the strings, and he is for sure, Tibbs's fingerprints have been all over this franchise from the moment that he got hired. And that surely is reflected in how they have played on the court both, and even there, you can divide it into two segments. There is like schematically, they play like a Tibbs team, they play defense like a Tibbs team in terms of rim protection being paramount at all times. And they play offense like a Tibbs team. It's like just figure out a way to get two on the ball and then make the correct decision. Make the right read. That's it. It's very simple stuff. And then also on the court, the other part of the on the court is, you know, that when you play a Tibbs team, you're going to get 48 minutes of hell. And this team, for the better part of 4 years, has given opponents 48 minutes of whatever they got. And all of that is a big part of why he's receiving this extension. I would argue, in terms of his fingerprints being on this franchise, it's almost more has to do with off the court. Before Tibbs came here and accepted this head coaching job, I almost forgot to point out I'm wearing my Godfather hat that I picked up at the Academy store. I had to rep, where I was. Before Tibbs got here, the Knicks were, in no uncertain terms, a laughingstock. And that is with all due respect to Mike Miller, who did a nice job stepping in for David Fizdale in what we'll say politely was an unenviable situation. You know, he got them to a point of at least basic competence more often than not, which was, again, that was good, solid. But they were still the laughingstock of the league, or if not the laughingstock of the league, certainly in the bottom 3 teams in terms of how they were regarded. And they had been that way for so long, and they had been derided and poked fun at by, forget media people, by other players. You know, again, I've referenced this so many times, but it's notable that, like, you know, they couldn't get a meeting with Fred VanVleet, you know, when he was a free agent. The De'Aaron Fox tweet, you know, on draft night, you know, Nick fans crying because they got whatever pick they got in the lottery, you know, like they were a laughingstock. And then pretty much overnight, Tibbs changed that. And he did it by instilling a culture. And the culture was very simple. If you don't play the right way, you're not going to play. And you know, my beloved Zach Lowe has always been fond of saying, if you want your organization to win basketball games, hire Tom Thibodeau as the coach. And they did, and they have. And it's as simple as that. And I think that has to do as much with off the court as anything else, because that culture is obviously what happens in the locker room. That culture is in the locker room. That culture is in terms of the players they acquire, which took a little while to get right, but they made some good, solid moves early on, and now they seem very, 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 very like a well-oiled machine in terms of the players that they bring in. And yeah, not every player wants to play here. I would actually argue, probably, if I had to guess, the majority of NBA players probably wouldn't want to play for Tibbs. But there is a select subset of players who do. And this place has been a draw for those sorts of players and will continue to be a draw for those sorts of players. And frankly, if you're a fan and you want your basketball team to play the right way and win games, why wouldn't you want those kind of players in-house? And that's all because of Tibbs. It's all because of Tibbs. It's not due to anybody else. And, well, I shouldn't say that. It's like Leon has been hands off. You know, he has not meddled. Nobody in the front office they've had their quibbles with Tibbs, obviously, and we've heard those reported over the years. But in terms of how he goes about his business, it's like, and look, he stood his ground a few times, maybe to his detriment. And that's why I'm sure there are a subset of fans, upon hearing this news, who rolled their eyes and were like, well, the franchise is only going to go so far for as long as he's the coach, because he is stubborn and he is hard-headed and he is set in his ways. And he does have tendencies which, again, have not always worked out, and they have not always worked out here. His second season here was, I'm not going to say it was a disaster, but it did not go well. And that was because of some not great decisions that he's made. And I think he learned from that. Somewhat stayed true to his guns, but he also learned from it. And I think you've seen the fruits of that labor bear out over the last 2 years in how they've turned things around. And obviously, Jalen Brunson has a massive part of that. But Jalen Brunson's been on record of saying that, or maybe I don't know if he's been on record, but it's been reported in no uncertain terms that one of the biggest reasons Jalen Brunson is here is because he wanted to play for Tom Thibodeau. So if you're a Knicks fan, you're a fan of Jalen Brunson, you love Jalen Brunson, you have Tom Thibodeau to thank for that, at least in part. And yet, I just praised the man for the better part of 10 minutes, and I will agree with what some very smart people have said. I just saw DJ tweeted, I saw Benji tweeted some version of, for as much as he's accomplished and as much as he deserves this extension, this is arguably the biggest year of his career. It's certainly, well, side by side with his first year in New York, but actually his first year in New York, setting a culture, Tibbs could do that in his sleep. That wasn't hard. This is now where it gets hard because no team, there have only been 2 teams, I would say, that he has coached, and out of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is 13th year coaching. There have only been 2 other teams where the expectations have been this high, as high, comparably high to what they are this year with the Knicks. His second season with the Bulls and his second season with the Timberwolves. And his second season with the Bulls, with the Wolves. I combined Bulls and Wolves. Bulls, who knows where it might have ended up had Freudian slip. Had Derrick Rose not torn his ACL in that playoff game. We'll never know. And then his second season with the Wolves was humming along and going very well. And then Jimmy Butler got injured towards the end of the regular season, and they fell from roughly the 3rd seed, which is where they had been for most of that season in a very competitive Western Conference, fell all the way down to 8th, got steamrolled in the first round by the Houston Rockets, and then we know what happened with Jimmy that summer. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on him to succeed this year. There's a man who, for as much as he has won a lot of games, 2-time Coach of the Year winner, winning percentage, any metric you want to look at it, he is not a Hall of Fame coach right now, but he's walking up the stairway to get to that level where he could at least knock on the door. Only got 1 conference finals appearance under his belt. And, that first year Bulls team got steamrolled by the Cavs, by the Heat. No one holds that against him, but still made it to the conference finals once. Was not close to getting to the finals. And this year, the expectation for this team is to get at least that far to get to a conference finals. And the expectation with the Mikal Bridges trade is it doesn't have to be this year, might not even have to be next year. At some point, I would go so far as to say if this team does not reach a finals, this will have been a disappointment. And so is Tibbs going to make his first NBA finals as a coach of the Knicks during this extension? We'll see. If he doesn't, I do not think that his entire tenure as a Knicks coach will go down as a disappointment. I know there have been people speculating since the day he got the job that he would be their version of Mark Jackson, and it would take their version of Steve Kerr to get them to the promised land. I get that, and there are still people who believe that today. It's fine. It's up to him to change that narrative. I think to compare him to Mark Jackson is wildly off base in many respects that we don't have to get into today. But at the same time, he has not proven himself to be the A++, Eric Spoelstra in a playoff series. You want to throw Pop in there. I would have thrown Kerr in there, but the Kerr's had to take a lot of slings and arrows over the last year, certainly. That's the thing is there's very few head coaches who are above reprieve, and even Spo is not above reprieve. If you go listen to Heat fans, sometimes when they're struggling, we've gone over this before. Every coach catches crap, but Tibbs definitely still has the reputation as being a little bit inflexible. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll turn to whatever any comments that we have, any super chats or anything, is part of what has made him so good and what has made him so successful is the fact that no team is ever going to be more prepared to play and win a basketball game than a Tibbs team. And part of the reason that his teams are better prepared than anybody else is because they hone in on certain things and they become experts at those things to the point where there are no breakdowns, there are no mistakes. For this team, or at least the version of this team that exists right now, we'll see if there are adjustments to the roster coming this year moving forward. The version of this team that exists right now, there will need to be more versatility shown both from a lineup perspective and a play style perspective than they have had to show really at any point in time over Tibbs' tenure as coach. And it, you know, like it's been a lot of noise about Julius Randle this summer. Fred Katz went on Zach Lowe's podcast yesterday or 2 days ago, and Zach Lowe, who is as in tune with NBA scuttlebutt as anybody, in the league, was like the Randle situation in New York is a story, one of the premier storylines or things that people in the league are monitoring over the next 18 months. And that's because you could argue very easily that the best version of the Knicks in the last 5 minutes of a playoff game might not have Julius Randle on the court. Now, Tibbs, for better or worse, has been tethered to Julius over the course of his time here. How is he going to handle a situation where, hey, I might not be the right move for me to have this guy on the court here in this given situation? Like, he hasn't always been great with that stuff. Is he going to be great with it now? We'll see. Is he going to be able to play schematically different on defense against a team like Boston? I mean, asking, is he going to be able to? Obviously, he's able to. Obviously, he knows how to do it. It's a matter of, will he do it? Will he compromise the values that he seemingly holds so dear to make the right adjustments that are seemingly necessary against, again, a team like the Celtics? I think my own personal opinion on that is I think Tibbs looks at every team he's ever coached and looks at the personnel and says, I'm going to do what is best served given the people that I have on the roster. And I would go so far as to say that he has never had this level of personnel before. So I think the criticism of, he can't adjust, he doesn't want to adjust, he's stodgy, he's stubborn, he's to his detriment. That I think he has a chance to refute that narrative very fast this year. Or at least when it comes to some big games. We'll see if he does. A lot of pressure on him, but at the same time, again, 77-year history of a franchise. He's on the Mount Rushmore, and that means something. And this was never in doubt, but it's nice to see that it happened, and he got something that he damn well deserved, because this was not an easy job. He made it look easy at times, but I think a lot of people would have told you if you would have asked people around the league, what's the toughest job in the league? I'm sure there were a few people around that would have been like, yeah, go try coaching the Knicks, for that owner and with that revolving door of front office people. And he's made it look easy at times. So kudos to him, and good job by them getting this done. And on that note, I don't really have anything else to say. I've talked for a lot longer than I thought I was going to talk. I think we have some super chats, and which I will address, and then we'll get out of here. Starting off with Dom Cappuccini. Dom, the most generous Knick fan I know. Thank you, Dom. What a blessing to have a serious coach like Tom for almost a decade when this contract runs out. We'll see if he makes it there, Tom. We'll see if he makes it. But yes, that'd be cool. Considering the last 2 decades of our clown coaching carousel, the reasons to be proud of our team are infinite. Dom, I completely agree with the sentiment, but I feel obligated to point out that the clown coaching carousel you're referencing, I'm just going to go backwards from Mike Miller, or backwards from David. I'll go backwards from David Fizdale. David Fizdale, like, very highly regarded when he was hired here. Jeff Hornacek finished runner-up in Coach of the Year, I believe his first season coaching in Phoenix. Derek Fisher, had obviously never coached before, but like certainly well regarded as like a basketball mind and like just a guy when he took that job. Kurt Rambis, we don't have to talk about. Mike Woodson, a guy who, again, like viewed as a serious guy. He actually did have success, so kudos to him. He certainly got Coach of the Year votes, finished third in Coach of the Year voting 2012-13, but I don't think anyone counts him among he was successful. He was the one guy who was successful. Mike D'Antoni, a guy who is one of the foremost coaching minds that has come into the NBA in a long time. Like, he revolutionized the sport, you could argue. Isaiah Thomas had done a decent job at the very least coaching in Indiana. Larry Brown, Hall of Fame coach. Lenny Wilkins, Hall of Fame coach. Don Chaney, former Coach of the Year award winner. And that's your list. And if you even want to throw in Don Nelson in there, Don Nelson didn't last half a season. And he's one of the 15 most winningest coaches of all time. So it's not like they got a bunch of nobodies or like guys who didn't know what they were doing to come take this job over those 20 years. A lot of very serious, very good coaches took this job and fell completely on their face. Now, this is where you have to give credit to Leon Rose. Dolan, Rose, Tibbs in alignment from day one. Hiring Rose and then letting Rose pick his own coach it was a masterstroke. So, different situation. Tibbs got the benefit of having a front office person who believed in him fully, to the point where some people in the front office wanted him gone, and Rose said, no, I'm going to stick it out. So Tibbs got to get that benefit, but he also earned his keep. Thank you, Dom. Debo, what's going on, Debo? Tibbs absolutely deserves a ton of credit for this team's success and culture change. Can't wait to see how he coaches this very talented Knicks roster. It's a very talented Knicks roster, and it's a roster that is going to allow him to play a lot of different ways. I mean, look at it this way. You want to talk about having a queen of the chessboard, on defense at least. There's lineups where he's going to be able to play OG Anunoby at the 3, and you could very credibly argue that's the best Knicks lineup. And there are lineups where he's going to be able to play OG Anunoby at the 5, and you could very credibly argue that's the best Knicks lineup. And the sliding scale goes up and down. He could play super big, throw Josh Hart at the 2. Forget Josh Hart at the 2. I mean, the starting lineup is probably going to have Mikal Bridges at the 2. Mikal Bridges is huge. Or he could play super small. He could go out there and we could see, obviously, Brunson, DiVincenzo, Mikal, OG, and hell, you could throw Deuce. How about Brunson, Deuce, DiVincenzo, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby? How you like them apples? I wouldn't want to face that 5-man unit if I was an opposing team. And he's going to have all of these different tools in his toolbox, and it's just a matter of how and when he deploys them. So it'll be fun to watch. Thanks, Steve. Dom with another one. Dom, you're a freaking madman. I must say, very bold of you, fine folks, to put this out before potentially coinciding trade for a potential coinciding trade for a big. The Prophet is saying Deuce and Mitch for Capella. Very bold indeed, gentlemen. LOL, JK. Viva Tibbs. I'm actually tempted to go look up. I'm 99% sure that would not work. Because if you, again, not to go back to all the apron stuff, but if you send out less money than you take back, you're capped at the first apron, which the Knicks can't be capped at the first apron because they're already over the first apron. So that wouldn't work because Capella's making over 20 and those guys. So it would have to be something else going on. I will say I think I thought the Capella tidbit from Bagley the other day was interesting, and I have not gotten a chance to do so yet. I may be bold enough to shoot Ian a text and be like, "Hey, should we assume that they have checked in on Capella in recent weeks, or is it possible that they just checked in on him before the Mikal Bridges trade, which would have been a little bit different because then the salary matching would have been easier if you would have thrown Bogey into that." I'm gonna text Ian and see if he responds to me. And I'll report back. I'm assuming that they checked on Capella after the Bridges trade, which would certainly necessitate Mitchell Robinson going out, and then whether we're talking about a Precious Achua being signed and traded somewhere as part of that, or maybe it is Deuce and Precious, maybe it's Deuce and a minimum. I would have to sit here and do the math. I haven't done the math yet, but like I do think that they are certainly like the notion that they are going to that everybody there is hunky dory and comfortable with Mitchell Robinson being the only starting caliber big man on the roster with his frequent injuries is I just don't think that that's the reality. And then it comes down to, all right, well, since there's nobody available on the trade market, what would be better for your team? You send Mitch out and get someone back that is maybe not as good as Mitch when Mitch is at his best, but who is a little bit more dependable from an injury standpoint. Or do you stick with Mitch and then you re-sign Precious and maybe trade for a lesser big like Nick Richards or something like that, and then you kind of keep your fingers crossed that Robinson's going to be able to play 65 or 70 games. I don't know, but we'll probably find out soon enough. Thanks, though. Alex, what's going on, my man? Glad for Tibbs and John. Why, thank you. It seems that Tibbs is finally listening to internet fans and growing this season. Or that Tibbs finally listening to internet fans and growing the season earned him the extension. # fire Tibbs. Yeah, the day that Tibbs listens to any fan opinions, that'll be the day. No, I think I'll say this about Tibbs. I think that. I mean, let me just go I'll go to the thing that the people have had the most, the biggest issue with over the years, and that's quickly never getting a real shot at a starting job. And I think that's a situation where you can look at it, and Tibbs looked at this player and said, this is a guy who is best served being our sixth man. The best version of our team has this guy being a sixth man and coming off the bench and playing 25 to 30 minutes. Now, I think if he was, again, looking at the long-term vision, I think it's fair that he was like a small backcourt of Jalen Brunson and Emmanuel Quickley is just never going to work. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair opinion, even if it may have been the best option at the time. I think if you want to be a little bit more critical, you go back to Quickley's second season, where again, he stuck with Burks for all the time that he stuck with Burks. But even then, I think he was looking at it like, yeah, I need more defensive size, and I feel like Burks could at least keep us treading water, and then we bring Quickley off the bench, and then we win games with our bench. And like to some extent, like that plan did work that year. It just didn't work well enough. And then the Kemba thing is really what derailed that season, but it's neither here nor there. Yeah, look, he hasn't been perfect. He has grown. I don't think he's grown because he's listened to anybody. I think he's grown because I think any serious person, any serious professional, regardless of your line of work, is always learning and growing. And I think Tibbs does that too, while still maintaining his core values and beliefs. So yeah, thanks, Alex. Kev Danishevsky, hello, sir. The public ought to know something. Mr. Macri ought to know something. Mr. Macri does not think Mr. Tibbs is a Hall of Famer. Insufficiently loyal, should be shamed. Seriously, great day. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not a Hall of Fame coach. There are like, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head. There are not many Hall of Fame coaches that are just in for their just in for their coaching. It's a very short list, and I've gone through the list. And if you you need to be a realistic candidate, you need at least a championship. And at the absolute very least, bare minimum, you need a finals appearance. And I'm saying that, and again, I've done this research and it's escaping me at the moment, but I don't think there are a ton of coaches in the Hall of Fame. I'm sure you can count them on one hand who are in there where they only have a finals appearance and they don't have a championship. Again, it's he needs to accomplish more. Now, I will say that he is in terms of accolades and everything. I mean, 500 wins is pretty good. Or he's at 527 right now. A 575 winning percentage is excellent. Little under 500 in the playoffs. That's fine for now. It needs to get a lot higher, and he'll have a chance to make it a lot higher. I would say if he coaches this team to a championship and becomes the first coach to win a championship with the Knicks since in over 50 years, since Red Holzman, and he sticks around long enough to get, in the neighborhood of 700 wins, maybe a little over that, I think then he obviously maintains this winning percentage. Again, the two-time Coach of the Year winner. I think he's got a shot. I think he's got a shot. I'm just looking up to see. Yeah, I mean, there's only 20 coaches in history as of right now that have over 700 wins. And the ones that have over 700 wins and the ones that have a championship, either most they're not even all in the Hall of Fame. Like Gene Shue is not. Now Gene Shue had over 100 or no, not 100. He had more losses than wins. He had about 80 more losses than wins. Tibbs isn't going to have that problem. Jack Ramsey's in. Dick Motta not in, but again, Dick Motta more losses than wins. You know what? You know what's going to be an interesting case? Rick Carlisle. Now, Rick Carlisle is not going anywhere in Indiana anytime soon. Rick Carlisle is probably going to 1,000 wins. That's going to get him in. But he has a championship. And Doc Rivers is going to get in. So I would say 700 wins in a championship. Yeah, I think that'll get him. I think that'll get him in. So say this: if he lasts this entire contract, I think he's got a pretty good shot of getting in. Thanks, Kev. Robert W. Cross, of course, Robert Cross. First time, long time, it's your boy John. This is a big day for your guy. Moral of the story: you have to take the good with the bad. How sweet it is. Let's go Knicks. Hashtag the chip. Well, I'm not going to kill you, Robert, because I'm on vacation. I would argue that there is a lot of people out there who think that the good-bad ratio for Tibbs is like 50-50 or like 60-40. I would argue it's like 95-5. Because again, a lot of the stuff that people complain about, there's a method to the madness, even if you may not see it that night in that game. Because again, this is a consistency and repetition, and excellence at doing the things that you need to be great at. Like that's always been what he's been about, giving players a repeatable blueprint. And so they know what they have to go out there and they know what they have to execute. And so no player, here's the thing about a Tibbs team. And again, I'm not making stuff up. Guys have gone on record with this stuff. No player who has ever played under Tom Thibodeau goes out there confused as to what they were supposed to do on any night. And those that are, there are probably some other issues going on there. So yeah, a lot more good than bad. And I would also say that there is no coach where that ratio is 100-0. Every coach has stuff that's not great. Another one from Robert. First time, long time, it's your boy John. Is it fair and reasonable to say that you were more refreshed from your vacation? That you are more refreshed from your vacation? Is the California, if so, the California sunshine might be good for you. Hashtag the chip. I'm loving California. I don't really want to leave California. Um, my wife likes California a lot. My kids seem to like California a lot. We're gonna, I think, head to the beach after I'm done with this live stream, and it's great. I don't know why you ever left it, but I've already told you that. So we'll see where life takes the Macri family in the years to come. But I would say yes, California is a lovely state, and I'll leave it at that. Read a quick tweet from Ian Begley. With regard to the annual amount on Tom Thibodeau's extension, the number is in line with the current market for head coaches, per SNY sources. Annual coaching salaries on new deals have hit 8 figures recently in recent seasons. Excuse me. Thibodeau's extension is through 2027-28 season. So that is Ian telling us in coded language that Tibbs got at least $10 million a year, which is what he should be getting. Another one from Robert. It's your boy John, as one of Julius's biggest supporters. I need that extension to cap the summer. Do I get it? Hashtag the chip. I'm going to say no, Robert. I'm going to say you don't. And that's because not anything I know or even think. It's because Ian Begley just reported recently that the extension is not really on the forefront for either the front office or Randall. Now, I thought it was interesting that part of the rationale included in that report is that Randall understands that the team has other work to do, including addressing the backup center position and this and that. And that's all well and good. Well, let me first point out that I've been wrong about this already this summer. I wrote a couple weeks ago that I thought the Knicks would offer Randall the full amount of what they could offer him, 4 years and $181.5 million. That was wrong. I was incorrect in that assumption because the reporting since I wrote that has been pretty clearly that they are not going to do that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will offer it. What the hell do I know? But I have interpreted the recent reporting as the fact that they will not be offering the full what they can offer him in an extension. And it seems like Randall would need to take something certainly less than that, which is like 46 a year, to get them to extend him now. Is that, is it like 35 is a number that, again, Zach and Fred talked about on Zach's pod 2 days ago, as being like a significant number, which is $10 million or $11 million less than the max that he could get on the extension they could offer him on August 3rd. I mean, I'm having a tough time reading the situation because from my vantage point, it sure does seem like the Knicks just don't have any interest in committing themselves to X years and X dollars of Julius Randle into the future. That is my read on the situation. Is there a number at which they would reconsider that position? I'm sure there is. What is that number? I don't know. Do I think Julius Randle would be amenable to whatever that number is? Probably not. Which is why my guess is that everybody is like seemingly singing, is seemingly hunky-dory at the moment. And like, yeah, we're cool putting this off for now. And I think that's because like the Knicks are like, yeah, we can't commit that sort of money right now until seeing this team. And Randall's like, well, yeah, I'm not signing for whatever you're offering now anyway. And everybody's just going to go on with their life. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it gets done. Okay. Let's keep it going. Sam Garcia, how you doing, Sam? Happy to have our fearless leader, Thomas Joseph Thibodeau Jr., back for the foreseeable future. Well-deserved and excited to see him get that ring. He will have a chance. I don't know if it's going to be this year. I don't know if it's going to be next year. I think he will have a legitimate chance. I think there will at least be one of these seasons where the Knicks will enter the season as maybe not the prohibitive favorites, but I think we're going to see a season. It's not this season. I think we're going to see a season coming up where the Knicks will enter as, at the very least, the co-favorites to get out of the East, which is all you could ever ask for. Thanks, Sam. Juanon, what's going on, man? I'm very much looking forward to continuing the #FireTibbs hashtag for the next 3 seasons. At least Holman, Van Gundy, and Tibbs are on our Coach Mount Rushmore #FireTibbs. Got to throw Riley in there too. Riley, for as much as we talk about Tom coming in and resetting the culture and everything, the organization obviously had Patrick Ewing and Pat Riley came here. He wouldn't have come here had they not had Patrick Ewing. But what Riley was able to achieve, in the 4 years he was here was pretty freaking special. As much as his exit may not have been pleasant. Thank you, Juanon. Appreciate you as always. Andrew P. Tom Thibodeau will never fully unlock an offense. You might be right. You might be right, Andrew. I would argue that there is some very readily available statistics, which you could go and type away on your old keyboard to find, that would directly contradict that sentiment. I mean, just look at their offense in this past playoffs. It was gangbusters. The reason they lost against Indiana was because of their defense. Their defensive rating especially in the last last 5 or last 4 games against the Pacers. The last 4 games against the Pacers was atrocious, and that's ultimately why they didn't move on to the next round. And you put some of the blame on that for Tibbs. I think if there's definitely a top 10 list out there of dumbest Tibbsisms or misconceptions or things of that nature, and I would put that he's offensively uncreative as number 1 on that list with a bullet. Thank you for the contribution. Andrew Claudio. Other Andrew does not speak for all Andrews. Why, thank you for that, Andrew. And thank you for producing this live stream. Sam L. What's going on, Sam? Thomas Thibodeau takes the talented team to the top to trounce terrible traders, training teammates to think thoroughly. Yep. All started with these. A+ job, Sam. Well done. Kevin Danishevsky with another one. You said everything that needed to be said, so I'm going to ask you questions. Sure, why not? What do you think is the New York Knicks day 1 backup center? Any chance of a big trade with Randall for a small ball 5, parentheses, Cat, Senjun, even Laurie? They don't have enough. I'd be shocked if they had enough to get Laurie Markkinen. I don't think they do. I'd be very surprised if they went Senjun. I mean, Cat, let me say this. I don't think a Randall Cat trade is going to happen this offseason. Would not shock me. I don't think it's going to happen this offseason unless the Minnesota ownership situation gets resolved much faster than I'm anticipating, or I think anybody is anticipating it gets resolved, and it gets resolved in a particular way. If that were to happen, maybe then it would really not surprise me a lot. But as long as the Minnesota ownership situation remains as it currently is, I don't think we're getting the Cat Randall trade. Who do I think is going to be their day 1 backup center? Man, I mean, I'll go with the easiest answer. I'll say Precious. Go from there. Robert Cross with another one. It's your boy, John. Just because I am being effusive today doesn't mean I can't complain when Hart averages 30.7 minutes per game. Hashtag the chip. Robert, if Josh Hart, let me take a step back before I say something crazy. Absent major injuries to this roster, the kind that we got last year, if Josh Hart averages 30.7 minutes per game this season, I will fly to Oregon, wherever you are in Oregon, and I will hire a party bus, and I will drive, me and you will drive around, just the 2 of us. I don't know what there is to do in Oregon, or you're in Bend, Oregon. I don't know what there is to do in Bend, Oregon. But we'll drive a party bus around. I don't know. Is there a main street? We'll do that. Thank you, Robert. OG team. We're projected to finish top 3 seed in the East. What would it take to push Tibbs to become Coach of the Year this upcoming season? Overtaking Boston? ? Yes. I think number 1 seed in the East. I'm trying to think who should he? I don't even know who should be considered the Coach of the Year favorite right now. I promise I'm not going to go down a deep dive for all interested parties. I would probably say that right now the favorite for the preseason favorite, if that's even such a thing, for Coach of the Year is I mean, man, Coach Bud, it'd be so easy for him to, if Phoenix was a top 3 seed, that would be pretty easy. And they looked better than they did last year. If he was able to like band together this kind of ragtag supporting cast around their 3 stars. I gotta tell you, right now, I'm looking at this like every up and down like the. I don't think there's like an obvious standout like, oh, this is a golden opportunity for this person to win Coach of the Year this year. I mean, Milwaukee, you can make the same case as I did for Phoenix. It's kind of low hanging fruit there, but again, it's Doc's second season. He's not just taking over, and it went so badly last year. I would say, yeah, sure. If he finishes first in the East, sure, yeah. I think if he finishes first in the East, they got a good shot. He is a good shot. Dom with another one. Jeez, Dom. Seriously, man. Thank you. Truly. Prediction. Precious re-signing is the next move soon. I believe there will be some move real soon now that this is out of the way. I just assume it's Precious because Leon got tired of an overpriced trade market. I don't know. Like, I think Fred had some real. He said it. Went and said it on Low Post, but before he ever said it on Low Post, came in on our podcast and said it and talked about how it's advantageous for Precious to wait it out and see what the Knicks are going to do. I think the implication, and this is made even stronger by the fact that Gary Trent Jr. just signed for the freaking minimum, albeit on a team that he's going to have a big role and will play real minutes, and is a good team. Like I don't think there's an offer out there for Precious that's above the minimum. And if there is, maybe slightly above the minimum, I would not be surprised if there was not an offer for Precious Achiuwa out there that's not significantly above the minimum. Andrew's telling me, by the way, Mazzulla is currently the favorite for Coach of the Year. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But he's not a heavy favorite. Anyway, so like if that's the only offer that's out there and Precious knows, hey, at the very least I could get the minimum or maybe even a little bit more than the minimum. I could get a little bit more than the minimum with New York. Like my worst case scenario is if I wait it out, I'm going to go get the minimum somewhere else. But if I stay here, worst case scenario is I ended up getting more than the minimum to stay with the Knicks, or I'm involved in a sign and trade for significantly more than the minimum. I'm not sure if there's a ton of urgency right now. And I'm just wondering, I think they're waiting on a shoe to drop. I just don't know what that shoe is. Is it Markkanen? Are they waiting on the Markkanen shoe? I don't know. I think they're waiting on a shoe. And I think you look around the league, you look around the fact that the Pelicans, Pelicans, they still don't have any center on their roster. The fact that Ingram is still waiting in the wings. There's like enough unfinished, unsettled business out there in the league. And then you got the Markkanen thing obviously hanging over all of it. I feel like there's maybe a few different teams, and maybe there's like, again, Capella is still a Hawk. Like it makes no sense for the Hawks to go into the season with Clint Capella and Yeko Okongwu and Larry Nance Jr. all on their roster. Like I think there's going to be a series of transactions that take place, and but what has to happen for those to start? And are the Knicks obviously involved? I don't know. My guess is the Knicks are waiting on something else, and my guess it is potentially the Markkanen thing, but we'll see. Thanks, Tom. El Coriano 11, Tibbs over Kerr, Olympics coach, where defense rebounding is more important. You know what? I'm not sure Tibbs quite has the personality to coach the Olympics. I'll say that. Who would Tibbs select for a team to win gold and not satisfy star egos? Listen, if it's one thing about Tom Thibodeau, he always respects talent. I would guess that he would select pretty much the same roster that you see on Team USA right now. Maybe he'd find a way to get Taj Gibson in there as a 12th man. Danny Small, 74 wins. Jalen Brunson MVP. OG Defensive Player of the Year. Tibbs Coach of the Year. Knicks over OKC in 4 in the finals. Who says no? Not me. Not me. Thank you, Danny. That would put him in the Hall of Fame. Hush Zoo. Fire Tibbs. Jokes aside, although an up and down relationship, he absolutely deserves this. The last 2 years have shown how much he's improved. Let's get this chip. I'm not gonna fight you on that because I know you mean it as a compliment. He has had a wonderful 2 years, and he has quieted many of the doubts that existed, rightly or wrongly, before the last 2 years. And what a coincidence that he had Jalen Brunson for those 2 seasons. So, yeah. Kevin Danishevsky, what do you make of the Bertans rumors? Are they still out there? I haven't heard anything about him for a while. If there's been more recent Bertans rumors than I think it was from Michael Scotto several weeks ago, I don't make anything. I haven't heard them, and I don't really make anything. I think they were just probably looking for the last maybe a good, solid, playable vet to fill a roster spot. And I think the fact that they signed Campaign kind of maybe scratches that itch, but we'll see. Okay. I think, oh no, here we go. Busy. Hashtag fire tips. You got to get it in there, Busy. I love you, man. Okay. I think that is it from me, live from my hotel room in Los Angeles, California. First and foremost, thanks everybody for tuning in. Obviously, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and rate and review the pod. Also, thank you everybody for being patient with me, not being on our airwaves for this time when I'm away, barring anything major. So something above them signing Campaign. Y'all will see me probably not for another week. I'm back in New York on the 30th. I'm sure I will waste no time in getting behind the microphone in my friendly confines once I am back. So something to look forward to there. And hope everybody's enjoying their summer. And yeah, talk to you guys when I talk to you. Peace out.